Welcome back to another episode of the Contagious Culture podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King. We're back. Me and Dan are back. I'm excited. It's been an amazing last week or so. Some amazing episodes have dropped. If you have not liked, subscribed, or shared an episode, please do take 30 seconds and like the episode, review it, and subscribe to the channel because we have some amazing things that are getting ready to be launched that we're talking about over the next few weeks. That you do not want to miss. But if this is your first time, the goal of this podcast is to help you create environments and ecosystems where people thrive. Every single episode is actionable. It's practical. It's not built in philosophy and theory. It's built with practical insights from experts actually doing this work. And every single guest that we bring on is vetted, is tested and true. And it's here for you to be able to get the knowledge, to be able to get the education and equip you with the necessary resources and methodologies so that you can succeed in leading your nonprofit and mission-driven organization. Dan, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, man. It was 70 yesterday. Went outside. I hope everyone went out. Oh yeah, I hope everyone went outside and enjoyed themselves because as much as we work, and we've got these mission-centered organizations, you got to do something for yourself. You have to recover.
Oh no, I agree. This was a fun time. It was definitely a fun weekend. Parents came in town, so it's always great to see them. And one of the things that happened this weekend for me is that I received a text message from someone that launched a campaign that made $2,000 over the weekend, which is great. Yeah. And she was like, she reached out to various people in her network and just, lo and behold, all of this money started coming in. And she was like, just so happy. And then she was like, do you think that I should keep doing this to be able to raise money for my organization? And I asked the question that is going to really open up a great conversation, I feel like, today. I asked the question, I was like, well, what happens like after they give money? And then she was like, what do you mean? And then that was the whole purpose of what I was asking. And I said, fundraising is not transactional. It's not a moment. It's a journey. And fundraising is in the follow-up. And it's very interesting because a lot of organizations out there, grassroots under $1 million, are doing a phenomenal job, potentially reaching out and knocking on doors and doing a lot of those canvassing. And they're getting the $2,000, the $10,000, maybe even $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 by just reaching out. But fundraising is more than Giving Tuesday. Fundraising is more than just giving one time. What happens after the gift comes is truly where the power exists. So today we're going to be talking about how to build a network of donors for your nonprofit and what fundraising is and what fundraising is not. And that's no shame to any of the organizations out there that are beating down doors every single quarter trying to get new people. But look, one of the things that we always say within our Growth Alliance calls every single week, every single Thursday, is customer or donor acquisition is one thing, but donor retention, that's a whole different beast. And that is what fundraising is and how I would define it. How are you defining fundraising and what are some of the things that you're saying?
Yeah, Kyle, I think you bring up a great point, and I was thinking about this as you finish that is we are not an ad on LinkedIn, right? Fundraisers are not an ad on LinkedIn. They're not just a singular video on LinkedIn saying, give me money. This is my mission. This is it, right? People want to know you. They want to understand what you're about. They want to find ways to trust you. So I think we love to make connections in our podcast, right? We love to make connections of the work that we're doing, the work that we do. And I think it really comes down to alignment and trust. And that's what I look at as fundraising, because the simplest thing, we've talked about how there are so many nonprofits out there doing the same exact thing. So what sets you apart? Just like a fundraiser, just like an individual, right? Just like a person, what sets you apart? And if you want to set yourself apart in fundraising, it has to be consistency. It always has to be consistency. To your point, if you can be consistent in the way that people support you and give you the 3 R's, right? Revenues, relationships, and reach. If you can be consistent in how you steward those, and if we bring it to the simplest piece of fundraising, if it's consistent how people can give to you, if it's consistent how they receive their tax letter, if it's consistent how they receive a handwritten note or an email following that, if it's consistent or email note thanking you for the gift, and if it's consistent involving them afterwards, right? That's how you create. That's like a real life funnel, right? that's the real life funnel right there.
You know, it's interesting that you say that. You know, when I hear the word consistency, it reminds me of my mom. So shout out to my mom. She officially pre-launched her book. She's a brand new author. She pre-launched her first book this past weekend, and it was really cool because I was going to surprise her and just essentially build the page and reach out to her friends and people on social media. And when I told her about it, she was super emotional and she was appreciative that we kind of did the ground work for her. Yeah. And when she started reaching out to people, like literally orders started just coming in like immediately. Wow. And it was insane. Like people were buying 10 books and 5 books and 3 books and 1 book immediately. I'm like, oh my God. So, in a day, she had, 55 books sold online. And I was just like, this is insane. And it's really cool because what I was explaining to my parents in the living room over the weekend, I was like, transactions are easy, but when you get ready for actually launching the book, when she'll be launching the book in April 15th, it's not just about getting people to pre-launch or buy the book. It's about getting people to join and partner with you on sharing the book, on reviewing the book on the various platforms so that you can continue to push your message forward into new markets. And a nonprofit listening right now, what are you doing to be able to steward that gift? What are you doing to steward that transaction and build that relationship so that once the program happens, once the event happens, people can be sharing it, inviting other people to your network. So one of the things that I was recommending to my mom was after someone gives, I want you to send a personalized video on your phone to every single individual. And then it was funny because the next day, after church, they sent me this like doctored up video of her dressed up that's going to be sent to everyone. And I'm just like, dude, that's completely opposite of what I'm communicating. Like, it may take more time for you to send individual videos to Sharon, to Cheryl, to all of these various people, but just that personalization will allow someone to be invited and make them feel like they're now partnering with you on this journey. And one of the things that you say, Dan, is, and it really resonated with me when we were getting ready to launch the first Growth Alliance cohort. Rather than sending people emails, rather than doing all of these different things, you were like, Kyle, we should send personal handwritten letters to these individuals. So my question for anybody listening is, what are you doing that's separating you from all of the other nonprofits? What are you doing that's outside of just that generic email, just that generic thank you or receipt, or maybe a newsletter, and then the silence before your next appeal? Like, what are you doing that is separating you, that's saying like, hey, I see you, I want to build a relationship with you, I thank you, and I want to stay consistent over this period of time so that you can be a part of this journey, not just a transaction?
I was on TikTok this morning, and this guy that I follow had said, last 2 months of the year were really tough. They're saying it's going to slow down in my business. He's doing content, but he also works in the finance area. And he said, I'm listening to all these male podcast hosts. And he's like, and they're like, oh, you got to do this. And he's like, I've got 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. to do this stuff. He's like, and I also have to take care of myself and my family. So how am I supposed to do that? Right. So I think to myself about this, there are ways for people who are doing this alongside a job another way. You can still do this in your own way, right? One of the things when I managed in my last role, an enormous portfolio of people, because I was really the only frontline fundraiser and the leader of it for development, is when I do reach out, even if it's a text message, which is more personal, or an email or a phone call, I personalize it, to your point, right? So you can do the simple, the non like really special things. Writing letters, great. I love writing letters. But if you don't have time for that, you can still send a text message or email. But what you need to do is you really need to personalize it. You have to include details in there that the people that you met with may not think that you noticed, that you heard, right? Because you need to be actively listening. Now, to your point too, Kyle, of what you just said a second ago, I think a buy-in. When I worked in collegiate athletic fundraising, I would coach the coaches, the athletic coaches, on fundraising. I'd bring them with meetings to meet former student athletes. I'd have email intros, and I'd talk to the teams as well. And you're a former collegiate athlete as well. Anytime you've got a new coach in, anything like that, it's always about buy-in. How do we create buy-in from the team, right? How do they buy into my system? How do they buy into the training? How do they trust the process, right? And I think to myself, whenever I'd go in with the coaches and I'd get to know the players and see them in the office and talk to them, and then I'd talk to them in a large group, it was always, how do you get buy-in from them? And buy-in was always being able to take the work that we're doing and making it digestible. Saying this is why we need your help, crowdfunding or fundraising, because we're looking to update your locker room, because we know if we update your locker room, it's going to give you a place you're going to want to spend more time in. And if you're spending more time in there, we know from y'all and from research that you're going to build stronger relationships because you're going to be together more. You're going to spend time. You're going to have that one place. So I say that to say, when you are looking at stewardship, when you're building these networks, when you're looking at donors in that 30,000 foot view, how do you create buy-in for the different groups and segments that you're looking at?
That's a powerful perspective, Dan, about buy-in. And if somebody's listening right now, I want you to just write down, how are we creating buy-in amongst our ecosystem? And I say the word ecosystem because it's not just donors that you need. You need volunteers, you need stakeholders, you need all of these other people, because when you're having these donor conversations, they're going to be asking about potentially all of these other people. And in my opinion, if we expand on the first C of consistency, to be able to achieve buy-in from people, I believe that it takes three things. I think you set the foundation, you said consistency. Yes, it takes consistency, it takes consistent follow-up, consistent outreach, consistent platform systems, et cetera, et cetera. I also believe, just as we've been talking, curiosity and consideration are critical. In a relationship is two ways. A relationship requires you considering the other person's needs, you considering how you communicate to them, you considering how they want to be talked to, you considering their specific gaps, you considering their emotional makeup, you consider, like, all of the aspects of a relationship, you have to consider that other person. But consideration can't be achieved without curiosity. You have to be asking them questions. In a relationship, again, how do you like to handle conflict? How do you like problem solve? How do you like all of these different things? In a donor conversation, how do you normally like to give? How do you like to be followed up with? How do you like all of these different questions? So if I was to really break it down, consistency is a requirement in the standard, but we can't be consistent if we're not considerate. We can't be considerate if we're not mastering the art of curiosity. So when I think about all of these things, yes, somebody has made a first-time donor gift of $75, right? Let's look at this from a small scale, because I think a lot of times fundraisers or individuals are talking about $1 million gifts and $5 million gifts or $75,000 gifts. Let's talk about the $25 gift. Somebody gives $25. You send a receipt, a newsletter. You've probably lost that person until the next Giving Tuesday. That's not a journey. That's not a journey at all. That's a transaction. So let's shift it a little bit, and then we're going to break down like how to actually build the network so that you can actually do these things on a real-time basis. Because oftentimes you need the process before you have the persons. You have to build a process before you have the persons. This probably will require you 15 to 20 minutes a day. And with AI platforms out there, you could probably expedite this exponentially. Okay. Let's say they make a gift today. Within 48 hours to 72 hours, you need a thank you beyond the receipt. Let's write this down. A thank you beyond the receipt. Let's say within a week or two, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong. Let's say within a week or two, I would suggest and advise people listening for you to follow up with some type of impact report. Like what is going to be done or what can be done or what will be done or what has been already done by them making this gift or with past gifts in the past of this size. Then let's say a month from now, I would follow up with a story that is tied to the area in which that they are giving to. So let's say you're running a campaign to launch a specific program or to do an event or it's for this specific need. I would tie a story to personalize their gift. And then I would have a person that they're impacting tied to that story because people give to people, not just causes and programs.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 or 3 months after that, or let's say day 80 to 90 per se, I would invite them or create some form of invitation for them to stay connected with the mission or the cause, or potentially invite them to set a meeting or to learn from a person or come to another event or whatever the case may be. That is how I would break it down. Now, again, when you hear something like that, what do you think? Am I missing the mark?
No, I think that's good. I mean, I really don't know of, I know of some CRMs that are very AI intelligent and that can do certain things like that, but you have to initiate the outreach. Yeah. But I'm imagining to myself again, I just think of like an automation, like to be able to do that. But if there was a way in a CRM to be able to upload, like you can put in your notes, obviously, and it could scan those notes, right? Potentially. But if there was like an area where you could type in exactly what it was, and then at 90 days, your system could go in and say, okay, this is what he put in the profile. I need to send them something in my knowledge base related to this area. And then, like you talked about, like a month out, be able to do this. Like, obviously you'd have to put it into one specific area, question, whatever it is, for it to pull from that. But I know, I mean, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Right. And the goal is portfolios are shrinking, right? Specifically for major gift officers now. Those are the people that are going to take those $25, $75, $100 gifts and turn them into leadership and then major gifts. So you need to have those touch points, especially if your portfolio is getting smaller.
Exactly.
Right. Because you need to be more intentional and there have to be more quality outreaches. But I want to say, you had said something at the beginning and you said the standard. You said consistency is the standard. And I think that's so true. I think about that. I spoke to someone a few weeks ago and they had reached out to me and we had a Zoom conversation. It was nice. Like, wasn't a ton of direction. Like, I felt like I was asking the questions, even though I was the one that was reached out to. Yeah. And they were like, okay, I'm going to do these follow-ups for you. I think it's been like 3 weeks and I haven't had anything. And I wanted those follow-ups. Like I was looking for like 2 of those things that they were going to send me. Like, I had shared with my spouse about one of them because it was going to be something I could share with her. So I find that interesting, but I want to ask, right? You said consistency is the standard. So what is your standard? Do you have standard operating procedures with how you should be on a larger general scale, how you should be taking care of donors? And Kyle, let's say everyone who's 250 and below, right? And then 500 to 1,000, and then anyone over 1,000. What's the standard operating procedure? We talked about that, right? We had that with one of our Growth Alliance members. She was like, oh, I built out this whole document. I want to show it to you. And we had that conversation where we were like, that's great. And we loved that stuff. There were some other pieces we had questions about, but we were like, okay, can you accomplish this? Right? Is it possible? So you need to create standard operating procedures. And that ties into, we talk about, just because you're a nonprofit does not mean you should not be working like a business on the back end to be successful, because you have to be.
What is your standard? What is the standard in regards to your processes? What is the standard in regards to your follow-up? What is the standard in regards to personnel and systems? What is your standard? Because I know you all have come on to this podcast either on video or the audio, and you wanted to know how to build a network of donors for your nonprofit. What we're communicating before we just give the next step is that you have to have these preliminary steps and this foundation, because we can help you build a network. We're doing it in the Growth Alliance. We're doing it in the Growth Lab. But if you don't have processes, if your organization isn't optimized, if you don't have these preliminary things, it's going to be challenging for you to be able to have this network of individuals. Now, for me, let's get into like how to actually build this network of donors for your nonprofit. If Dan, and let's go back and forth. Let's play a game, I guess, because I really feel like we're so in sync that we'll be able to really walk through the whole process. So let's start us off with step 1, and then I'm going to throw step 2. And then you're going to throw step 3, and then we'll be able to go back and forth on this, really how to go about building this donor network. Let's do it.
Okay. So my thought is, before you go anywhere, before you do anything, you got to figure out who are your people. Who are the people you need to consider reaching out to? What do they look like? That's the first question. That's it. I mean, we can go into detail with that, but I mean, I think if people want the real detail of that, they got to join us on Thursdays, right? So, but I think that's the first question you have to ask yourself. If I'm trying to look for donors, if I'm trying to build a network, who are the types of people I need to be around? And I'm not saying ultra wealthy people. I'm not saying rich people, this and that. Who are the types of people that would believe in your mission, that are maybe associated with similar nonprofits, that are part of adjacent communities? I'll give you a quick little tidbit for it. There's someone that I've been helping who is from Gambia, and we were talking about how does he find people to that are interested in his nonprofit that he just founded that deals with soccer in the US and in Gambia. And I said, are there any Facebook groups that have people from the Gambian community in it? What about, we talked about his mosque. We were like, have you talked to anyone at the mosque to see if there's anyone interested in that? Like, where are you looking to find the ideal person that you're looking for? So who is that ideal person and where are they?
That's good. All right. So step 1 is create a character, like identify who my people are.
Love that. Right. Yeah.
So step 2 for me, this should be fun. So I think once you have identified where my people are, who my people are, I would recommend and advise you to identify and build an affinity circle or affinity map, and put you in the circle or put you in the middle, and then you draw a circle right around you. And then who do you know that is connected to people or groups in those sectors that you can text, call, or FaceTime? And why I say those 3 things is because you actually know these people. Then draw another circle around those people. I would identify those people as first connections on LinkedIn, or first connections, like I can reach out to them directly through a platform, but they're not as close to me as texting, calling, and FaceTime. Yeah. Those are my first connections. Then if I draw another circle outside of those people, LinkedIn would call it your second connections. They're connected to people that you know, but you don't really know those people directly, but you have someone in your environment or in your, what we used the word earlier, ecosystem, that can get in front of those individuals. So before you start reaching out, I would identify what we call as 100 players that you could potentially reach out to. I gave the example earlier of my mom. when she launched a book, I had her write down 100 people. I had her go through her phone, not LinkedIn yet, not all these other platforms yet. I had her go through her phone. She wrote down 77 names. On the first day, 35 people purchased a book. 35 people purchased books on that first day. So when you think about you don't need to go to a corporation yet. You don't need to go to a massive foundation yet. You don't need to go to all these major grant companies and all these places yet. Who are the people that you're close to on the first connection? Well, first immediate, then first connection, then second connection, and then all of the other people outside of that may be your third and fourth connections as well. That's what I would say step 2 would be, is identify and build an affinity map.
Step 3, Kyle, what do you say to them? What do you say? Right? We talked about consideration. We talked about consistency. What do you say to these people? Right? You've decided who your character is, what they look like. Right? I'm playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, and then we went into just now, right? Building out kind of you are the center of the circle, right? In your first and second connections. And then to me, the third step is, what do you say? What do you tell them? And in the world of AI, I look on LinkedIn, I look at Reddit posts, I look at people's descriptions on different things. I know it's AI. You know exactly how AI writes, right? If you've done it, you know it enough. I'm starting to find there is more personalization, excitement, and endearment in your grammatical errors than there is in perfection. People appreciate the fact that it is not perfect, right? We are imperfect beings.
Yeah.
So think about, what do you say to these people? Do you keep it simple and you just tell them, hey, I started a nonprofit. I did it because of this. And I would love if you would take a look at the website and consider supporting it. Right? I mean, it could literally be as simple as that. But that's that question, is what do you say? You have the list, but what do you say to them? And then what's next after that, Kyle? After you have, and I don't want to say the word pitch, but after you have shared your alignment and your belief in what you're doing, what's next?
Is invitation. Invitation. So I believe the next step would be inviting them in before I ask them. You have to invite before you ask. I'm inviting you on a date before I ask you to be exclusive as my person. And then I'm going to ask you for a few more dates. And then those dates over a period of time are going to get a little bit more intimate, right? So maybe we go get coffee and we just have a conversation. No ask, but we go back to those 3 C's, the curiosity. Maybe I'm just asking questions and we're getting to know each other. And then I'm showcasing my consideration. Maybe I'm curious in that first meeting. And then the second meeting, there's something that you said, and then I follow up because I know that you were interested in girls soccer programs or girls soccer or girls esports programs coming to this university. And then I reach out and say, hey, Janice, I remember in our conversation that you talked about your daughter who's getting ready to go into school that was interested in esports. Here's something that I think that you would like. So I'm inviting them. Invitation is the next step. I'm inviting them to be a part of my network, to take them from third connections to second to first to people that I can call, text, and FaceTime. So I believe that invitation is first, where now we are beginning to build a relationship. We're going from curiosity to consideration to consistency, so that I know how to frame my pitch. Because a lot of times what happens is that we pitch too early or we pitch too small. We pitched too small and asked this person for a $75 gift when they were connected to a multi-million-dollar foundation, and all we should have asked them for is a relationship so that we can be able to get access to $75,000. So I think the next step would be invitation.
Mm. Now tell me the third one. I'm I'm thinking, because I think we're breaking down these last few steps into smaller details, which is good. That's digestible, right? I'm imagining you've built the relationship. So next is the conversion.
Is the conversion. That's good.
Right? Is that tell me what you're thinking. Tell me you're I know you're on fire right now, so keep going.
So I think, all right, so we move from we move from curiosity. So now we're really being considerate. Now we've been consistent in our follow-up. We've done all the things. Now we move to conversion. Now I know that Janice is interested in being able to support the next generation of young women. Her daughter's name is Jennifer. They went with the J's. Now I understand that Janice grew up in a household that technology or extracurricular activities was not supported. So she really wants to identify organizations that do that. But Janice has had trouble with organizations actually delivering on their promise. She always has people coming to her and asking her for money, but no one actually wants to be a part of inviting Janice in to be a part of using her skills and her mind and her intellect to be able to help that organization. So she wants to be a thought partner. She just doesn't want to be a giver. So this is how I frame it. Janice, we've been having conversations for the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks or 2 months. And I feel like, I really appreciate your insight. We are getting ready to launch an esports program adoption for young women, 6th grade to 12th grade, to be able to help them be exposed to esports programming and be able to get 1,000 girls within college universities. And, this is going to take us $250,000 to be able to do. Janice, do you know of anyone that could be able to help us be able to achieve this goal? I know you're really connected, and I'd love for you to be a part of our potential board. I would love for you to be a part of our board. I feel like your insights, how you've raised Jennifer, who you are as a mother, who you are in this community. I'd love for you to be a part of a board. And I know you've mentioned people asking you for money all the time, but look, you are more than a transaction. Can we invite you to be a part of our board so that we can really be able to transform the next generation of young women? And then you just wait. Because what I've identified is, yes, Janice has access. Yes, Janice has money and resources. But what does she want more? She wants her voice and her thoughts and her intellect to be utilized. See, what happens, everybody listening, is that you are going for the kill, for the transaction, rather than inviting someone in and understanding what they really need, what they really want, what they really desire. You have not allowed that buy-in, like Dan said earlier. They're now bought in, and conversion, anyone listening, conversion is not just transaction. Conversion is not just money. Conversion is the 3 R's: the reach, the relationships, and the revenue. You may need someone on your board to be able to help you expand your reach. You may need someone on your advisory committee to be able to build relationships for you in the community. Or you may need someone on your board or in your organization that can cut checks or produce areas and environments where those checks can be cut. So Dan, that's how I think I would handle it.
Yeah, that was great. I was hoping you were going to say that. I heard it in the way you were phrasing that example about the board. I was hoping that you were going to bring that in. And
yeah.
And I think there are so many more next steps, right, that we can talk about.
Yeah.
But I think that people barely get to that point.
Yeah.
Right? Because they don't feel comfortable asking, or they don't know how to ask, right? And then you also brought up, well, maybe it's not asking about a gift. Maybe it's asking about joining us, wanting to be a thought partner because you believe so deeply in the organization, which more than likely will come with a gift, right? So you don't necessarily have to ask for that. But that's where people need to get to. And that's where people miss. You have to make quality transactions, conversations. You need to make quality moves, right? In the larger fundraising shops, they call it moves management. right? Managing how you're moving someone from a third connection to a second, to a first, to being someone you can reach out to asking them for a gift, to asking them to join a board, all of those things.
You said something, I'm not going to let you overlook it and just step over it. You said quality conversations, quality, just like quality. And I think I love that so much, and I feel like it's so valuable, because are we actually reviewing and assessing all of the steps that happen and asking ourselves, is this quality, or is it just let me reach out to 100 people? Or is it, let me reach out to 10 and build relationships with 10 really, really strong people so that I can personalize my time and nurture 10 people that can then help me reach 1,000. Quality must be the language that exists before you reach conversion. It's another episode of the Contagious Culture podcast. If you want steps on how to build a network of donors for your nonprofit organization, reach out to us. Reach out to us. Go to jointhegrowthalliance.com, jointhegrowthalliance.com. And if you're not ready to make that commitment of investing in your organization, investing in yourself, reach out to Dan or I on LinkedIn. Connect with us, ask the questions. But before you do all of that, subscribe to the podcast. Press the big subscribe button. Leave a review on today's episode. Like this episode and share it with at least 3 people you know. Look, on the Contagious Culture podcast, we always end with this question. What type of culture are you spreading? The energy you bring is the culture you create. Go make yours worth catching. We'll see you all.